Welcome back to Double Doink Dynasty Podcast. Once again, presented by myself and Mattoon. What's happening, man?
Chill, man. It's
That's
crazy. It's a fun time of the year.
yeah. So we hit what 10 trades on trade deadline week last week. So we're going to cover some of those. We'll cover some of the playoff scenarios here and just kind of talk predictions moving forward. Um, and then I'll let you cover that almighty keep trade cut, which I know everybody lives and dies by, right? Yeah, value,
All hell.
all hell values.
So,
So, all right, some of these trades we might hit pretty quick because some of them suck, but otherwise we'll hit as many as we can. Boyer gave an official announcement that he traded Lesac Godwin for his 24-second back. This is big, mostly for the sake of now Boyer gets to lose his own 24-second. So he gave up Godwin to get a lost pick so he doesn't push it into 25, which Boyer, I appreciate that. Good work. Now just don't ever make us deal with this again. And then he trades Sam Howell for Logan Thomas, Royce Freeman, and Burns's 24th third. You want to give me a quick thought on that one? Howell for Thomas, Logan
yeah,
Thomas,
this
Freeman,
is
and
right after
Burns.
Andrews. Yeah, this was right after Andrews went down. At the time, Boyer was sitting with Herbert, Dak, and then Sam Howell on his taxi. We kept talking about how Paul needed to go start to buy pieces. So he flips Thomas, Freeman, whatever. And third, he gets a quarterback who's had a really, really good season so far. So I think it makes sense for both parties. No sense in Boyer holding on to three quarterbacks. And then, like I said, with the Mark Andrews injury, he needed to go get another tight end that was at least putting up decent amount of points weekly. Fine
Yep.
with it.
And Royce Freeman was just a shot. The third is going to be a shot. So whatever.
Yep.
All right, good enough for that one. Um, Underhill trades Chig to Lesac for Rondale Moore, your third and 25, and Lesac's 25 fourth. Rondale Moore is an upside wide receiver. He's got Kyler Murray back now. Michael Wilson's there. Hollywood Brown's there. There are some pieces there, but Rondale Moore could be a good piece moving forward as maybe a slot guy, as a smaller, quick wide receiver. A 25 third yours and a 25 fourth Lesac doesn't really excite me. Sure, you got the third, sure, you got the fourth. Chig, honestly, to me, doesn't excite me at all at this point. I did like him at one point. I thought there was a chance he'd be okay, but I like the Rondale Moore in third and fourth for Chig because honestly, I would have taken a third straight up for Chig and called it good.
Yep. I think he got bonus points, from Lesac. And again, I think Lesac's starting to look at that tight end position, and Undy needed to start throwing darts. And so getting young upside, you can maybe say he was a bust up until this point. I'm not saying he's going to be phenomenal, but I mean, he had 2 good weeks in a row. I think for Undy as soon as he made the move. So don't hate it either way.
Yep. All right. Boyerson's Dak Prescott, Mattoon's 24 first, Jared Fry's 24 third, and his own 26 third to Andy for Kyren Williams and Raheem Mostert. So this was Boyer's big trade. This was pre-deadline. Boyer got Kyren Williams and Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert was looking good. Achane was down. Kyren was still on injured reserve at this point, coming back, I believe.
Yep.
Andy lost Burrow, so Andy had no quarterback, needed Dak. And getting Dak
out of it too.
What's that?
Got a first too.
Yeah, and I was gonna say getting your 24 first, like, yeah, maybe later, but I'm not mad about it. At least it's a liquid asset that he can move at some point soon if he wants to go make a different approach. If not, he's got a rookie there. Kyren Williams has looked good. I think Kyren Williams is going to be the piece moving forward for the Rams for at least next year. So Boyer grabbed a good starting running back, and then Raheem Mostert, which I think finishes out this year and then is timeshare at best moving forward. I don't know if Miami will keep him and Devin Achane in the roles that they are. Achane has been taking more work now that he was back healthy, but like we've talked about before, is he going to be able to stay healthy?
Yep.
So, but I do like the move, especially this year for Boyer grabbing the running backs. He didn't, like we kind of talked about, he didn't necessarily need all the quarterbacks he had. And Andy needed a quarterback. So I like this both ways. I think Prescott in a first. I think I'd lean that side. Prescott a first, a third, and another third. I think I'd lean that side just for the sake of having the first and couple thirds as liquid assets to maybe make another move. Any thoughts on that end?
Yeah, I like this for Andy. I think yeah, I like this for Andy. I think it makes sense for both parties with their situations. Andy is always or sorry, Boyer has always been keen on taking, young running backs, so he gets Kyron. Again, I think he's got a couple years till we figure out what McVay does and brings in another guy and he becomes obsolete. But I like the trade, way to work together, help each other out. And for Boyer, having Achan and Mostert, he kind of gets to play who's healthy. So a kind of handcuff situation, even though they've both been productive together at the same time. So makes sense. Not mad.
All right. So now Boyer gets another quarterback. Boyer was big in moving quarterback situations. Lesak sends Minshew and a 24 fourth Burns's to Boyer for his 25 third. So Boyer gives up a third to get a current starting quarterback and a 24 fourth. Once again, fine. Minshew's only playing this year. He'll be back up in the league for the next handful of years. But it is what it is. So that trade I'm not overly concerned about.
This one, honestly, I was a little curious at the time, because it was very apparent that I needed a quarterback, as I had Josh Allen going into a bye. And Lesak was the guy that I was looking at trading, going and getting Minshew, going and getting Goff. And so part of me wondered at the time if that was a Boyer playing defense of me, basically taking an asset that I could go out and get for relatively cheap. So again, small price for Minshew. I'm just curious, if there was maybe a little bit more intention. We may never know behind that move. So,
yep. All right. So here we move to Underhill getting another decent sized trade in.
Yep.
Underhill gets McLaurin, James Conner, plus Mattoon's 26 fourth from Nolan for Mattoon's 24 second, Mattoon's 25 first, a 25 third, and a 26 third. So he got a 25 first, a second, and 2/3 for James Conner and McLaurin. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think Nolan got good value out of that trade. Both of those guys are older. James Conner's having another great fantasy year when he's healthy. At this point, I think Andy was looking at it is he doesn't own his own first, so he's just gonna kind of try to play spoiler and get guys that he knows that can score points, and not worry about the age of them. Is ultimately I think kind of what he's doing. So I think the value, might be slightly tilted in Nolan's favor. But at the same time, I would like this trade if it was maybe a contender, not Undy making the move. So
yep, I'd agree with that situation. Value, I don't think it was bad because Connor's good. McLaurin is still going to be good for a handful of years, but Undy's just blowing my mind with getting these older players. We've talked about it. Speaking of older players,
yep.
Undy trades a 26 fourth to Paul for OBJ. So once again, grabbing an old player, plugging him in the lineup, hoping for the best. And this is some injuries were hitting over there. Andrews was down. I think he's taking a shot on OBJ being the guy there. I don't know. It is what it is. So 26 fourth for OBJ, value, whatever. All right, let's go to the next one. You can hit on the next one so overly excitedly.
Yeah, Demarcado. from Lisak to Undy for a 25 third, my 25 third. Again, taking a shot maybe at a younger running back. He just grabbed Connor. Now he's grabbing his handcuff in Arizona. Maybe Connor moves. He gets the next up and comer. DeMarcado had, I think, a good week or two. But this one doesn't excite me. A 25 third, whatever, Go spend those mid draft picks and take shots on guys. I mean, that's ultimately what they're for. So don't hate it either way.
At least you took a shot on a young guy there.
Yeah, he's learning.
All right. So Paul trades Goddard and a 24 third to Lisak for a 26 second. And it is Lisak's second and 26, which I expect to probably be later with the way he's with the way he's building. That was weird. All right. Sorry, a web browser randomly popped up on my computer. My computer's going nuts.
Uh-oh.
All right. Anyway. Lisak 26 second, which I'm not going to speculate because it's so far out. So we'll call it a mid-second for a third and Goddard. Paul was just hoping to have a second out of it. So getting Goddard and a third for a second, fine. The value was there. Goddard's coming back off an injury. Who knows what he's going to be? He's touchdown dependent. Thoughts?
This is one of those. I think value is fine. Nothing too exciting. Goddard's one of those guys that he's a really good NFL tight end, no doubt about it. He's just not a great fantasy tight end. And
there'll always be that one.
Every he's in that 10 to 15 range, or maybe he might even be an 8 to 15. But he's gonna have a couple good games. But I think if you look at his stats, I mean, there's a lot of games where he's putting up 3 and 4 points, So don't hate him, don't love him. Again, value is fine. So a lot of upside on a high producing offense. So
all right. So this next one's kind of exciting, at least.
I think this kicks off our true trade deadline chaos. This next one does.
Yeah. So Nolan sends a 25 first, yours, and a 25 third undies to Paul for Christian Watson and a 25 second, which is also yours. So essentially a 25 first for a 25 second flip, and then a 25 third for Christian Watson. So Watson in a second for a first and a third. I actually like the value here for Nolan's side. I still like Christian Watson. He's injured right now because that's what happens. You trade for a guy and he gets injured.
Trust me.
But to pay what should be a mid to late first for Watson, that's what his value was. And you got a second back for a third. Granted, your second if it's later and Undy's third if it's earlier aren't big difference in picks. So essentially a 25,
they might be
25 mid to late first. 25 mid to late first for Christian Watson. The other two picks should be fairly close, assuming Underhill's low and you're high. So I like it. I actually like that grab. Paul was stingy on what he was going to move wide receiver wise. And I think Christian Watson has a good future in the NFL.
Yeah, I had the same or similar offer come to me from Paul. And I was really, really tempted. At the time I was not sure which route I was going to go. So I love this for Paul. I know he wants more quality picks. It's probably the best way to put it. So he gives up a second. He gives up a wide receiver who's shown flashes but hasn't put it all together Jordan Love has put together a couple good games in a row, but he's also been very inconsistent. So I think Paul moved probably his most volatile wide receiver. Gains another pick, gains a third. So again, for both guys, can't be mad at the trade either way. So good job, guys, working together.
Yep. All right. So now Mattoon sends Cup to Andy for his 24 first back and his 26 first. So you got your two picks back this year in 26 for Cooper Kupp. I love the value for Cup. Getting 2 firsts while he's coming off an injury, while the Rams are kind of hot garbage. Kyron's been taking a lot of work. Puka's been taking work. Cup's been a little bit down. He did have a couple good games coming back when he came back. So he still has that upside, and that's what Andy's paying for. He's paying for that upside to take the shot at a championship. Which is weird because you also have a shot at a championship. So we'll see. Cup might bite you in the ass later, but
Yeah.
I like the value getting 2 firsts. I think Andy knows he overpaid ever so slightly for him. He's an older wide receiver. But take your shot on your guy. That 26 first, like we've talked about, even with Boyer getting Dak, you can recoup that pick at some point, right? So I'm not worried about that. And the 24 first should be a later pick because you're pushing for playoffs right now. So I'm not mad about Andy giving up 2 what should be later firsts, or at least this one's a later first.
Yep. No, for sure. For sure. So at the time, and I almost wanted to go ahead and jump to the next trade and let you give your analysis since they were literally bang bang. I wasn't doing one without the other. So I'll let you hit on the next trade and then I'll give you my 2 cents on both of them since they both involved me.
Yep. So then Mattoon sends a 24 first, which is Burns's, and Jalen Warren to Jerry for Pittman and a 26 third. So essentially he moved Cup for 2 firsts, and then he moved a first plus Warren, which who knows what Warren's going to be. He could just be a full-on timeshare all the time. He could be taking over the job. Who knows week to week what's going to happen. But he sent that first back, and Burns is pushing for playoffs. So same pick situation, being a later first. To go get Pittman. So you moved Cup for 2 firsts, moved a first and another player to get a younger wide receiver, which should still be good. Pittman's had a good year. So you got younger while still gaining 1 first.
Yeah,
so I like it.
my
I like it back to back.
Yeah. So my thought here was, Kelly and I are tight in our division. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice the year while I'm still, right there in the thick of things. And so I moved Cup, but I wanted to go get, a younger wide receiver. So obviously that's where Pittman came into play. And I missed him after I traded him during the draft. But the reason I really liked my trade with Andy was I got my own first back in 24, which gave me the ability to, if I make playoffs, I'm happy because I made playoffs, and I still have a first. But if I happen to miss playoffs and then I potentially even lose the first round of the consolation, I might have pick 5, pick 6, so it was kind of a best of both worlds situation. Whereas my other first that I owned at the time was Burns's. And the more and more I look at it, Burns's team is solid. And I think Burns has got a really good shot at sneaking into the playoffs. So again, we'll get to that. So I looked at it as I felt like it was a win-win situation for me. I got younger, but I basically got my own pick, which would allow me to hedge my bets. Either I miss playoffs and I've got a better pick, or I make playoffs and I'm happy. So
For sure.
kind of controlled my fate a little bit at that point. So, or hedged my bets. So, and then that only lasted for like 2 hours until the next trade.
All right. So this was a player of interest for quite a while that we kind of talked about. Nolan trades Josh Jacobs and Undies 24 fourth to Mattoon for Keaton Mitchell, 24 first, 25 second, 26 third. Jacobs, so first off, Nolan, I like the value on this for you. All right. I do.
I think
like
you got a ton of value. I overpaid.
I like that you got a first, second, third. I like the prospect of what Keaton Mitchell could be. I don't care about that 24 fourth from Undy. Like, I don't care if it's the 402, 403. Like, don't care. That pick means nothing to me. Getting that first, getting that second for Jacobs plus Mitchell, which is a young running back that in Baltimore, who knows? He's kind of started to take over. J.K. Dobbins is injured. Gus Edwards is older and had his own injuries. who knows what happens with Baltimore? Maybe they draft a running back. Keaton Mitchell's garbage from here on out, and it doesn't matter. But you still got a first and a second, and to move Jacobs, which I think, like you said, right, Nolan, I know that you wanted at least a first and a second because you're concerned Jacobs is good this year, next year, maybe still even the year after. Jacobs is 26. I think he's got the rest of this year, next year, and maybe another year. He'll be 28 at that point. I know Derrick
Yep.
Henry's made it to 28 to 30. Like he's making it as a big bruising back. I don't know if Jacobs is going to do that. So I think he's got at least one more good year in him. So getting a first and a second, being able to start maybe retooling a little bit, I like this trade. And like Mattoon said, he just said he overpaid a little bit. So go ahead, give your take on it a little bit.
Yeah, so there were two pieces between the Pittman trade and this trade that I was taking probably a little bit more into account than I should have. So Nolan was pretty hard pressed on getting a first and 2 seconds. Jared Fry was pretty hard pressed on getting a first plus a second. Kind of for Pittman was, about the ballparks. And so the common denominators, I used Mitchell and I used Warren, who both can't remember if Warren was for sure, but I believe they're both undrafted free agent, or they were both undrafted free agents. So none of them really has, I'll say, a team's vested value into them as far as a draft pick goes. And so, I mean, look at James Robinson. The guy was a stud in Jacksonville, and now he's getting passed around the league. And so both of those guys, as good as they are and as hot as flashes as they've shown, I just don't know what the long-term value is. I mean, they could surprise us. Keaton Mitchell, looks great, but I felt like I had to move them while there was hype, and I didn't have to move draft picks, if that makes sense. And so, I give up the first that I just back from up, a second and a third. I'm willing to move those pieces, to go get Jacobs, who's top 10, top 12 running back. And with the coaching change, they're kind of force feeding him. So I'm hoping that, he's a guy that I can use come playoffs and come some of these big matchups. So I know I overpaid. We'll see what shakes. It's either going to be worth it or it's not. And, at that point, I'm just going to have to roll with it. I still have a decent amount of draft picks moving forward. I think I looked at it as all I did is I moved. I'm still even on my number of firsts. I still have 2 and 25 and 1 and 26, whereas going into the trade deadline, I had 1 and 24 instead of the 1 and 26. So in terms of my draft picks, I'm still where I was pre-draft, and I'm basically moved Kupp and a couple bench, or depth running backs for Pittman and Jacobs. So not mad about it.
Yep. All right. I was in on Jacobs. I was coming home from work, got a message from Nolan, and then all of a sudden I got a message from you. Hey, you want Keaton Mitchell? And then all of a sudden the two of you traded, and I was like, "Okay, great."
Yeah, Keaton Mitchell was a topic of discussion with like 5 different people. So it was basically anytime I felt like I got something of nature with him, I was pulling the trigger. I wasn't even going to give it time to to unravel.
It was hilarious because I literally messaged you when I got home from work, right? And I said, "Yo, I got a trade request in my inbox from Nolan about Jacobs." And then literally 2
I
minutes
didn't
later,
even
boom, Jacobs
it
traded.
was already announcing. Yeah, it was already announcing because I think I hit you saying, any interested in Mitchell? You said no, so I went back to Nolan and I said, all right, deal. And then I went back to yours and you were like, boom, 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 boom. I was
Yeah.
like, oh crap.
I was like, I see what you did there. I get it. All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move
Hey,
on.
I figured I'd give that carrot real quick and then move on. So
The gruesome twosome trades Hollywood Brown, a 24 first, for Demario Douglas, a 24 second, mine, a 24 third, their own, and a 24 third Kelly. So they got Demario Douglas, a second and 2/3, all in 24 for Hollywood Brown. I'm not mad about it, but do I think if you maybe hold Hollywood for another year, You
He's a
could
free
get
agent.
not on Jared Fry's team.
Well,
Good.
no. That's what I'm saying. So you hold him for another 6 months and you see where he goes.
Well, even if nothing else, even if he stays in Arizona,
Yeah.
I think he's got
Yep.
value, and I think 2 seconds is doable if Kyler's healthy and Hollywood's playing great and things are rolling right. He's still a young wide receiver. I think you could have gotten maybe a late first or a couple seconds instead of the thirds. Granted, your
Yeah.
third, Jared Fry, is going to be super early. Hopefully the 101, 201, 301. So thank you for that. I hope that you guys continue to play that way. And then Kelly's 24 third. So that'll be mid to late. My 24 seconds is going to be late. So I think holding Hollywood Brown at that price was probably the call. Um, but I'm not mad about it. I see what you guys are doing, getting the draft picks, trying to be fluid with things. I just think that Hollywood at that price is a hold.
Yeah, I was surprised the fact that, in my opinion, I paid the equivalent of a first and a second for Pittman to see that big of a drop for Hollywood between Pittman and Hollywood. That was a little surprising to me. Um, Obviously Pittman's had a more consistent year. So I understand. I just felt like maybe they could have squeezed a little more out of that. But
Yeah, they were hitting me up about him,
again,
and they
I
said, "I'm
get it.
moving him tonight.
And,
I'm moving him
and
tonight."
goodbye for Leasack.
Yeah,
Yeah, goodbye for Leasack. Another young, high upside, boom wide receiver. So when he's on, he's on.
yeah. All right. So then the next one,
So
Jared Fry moves to 24 second. Kelly's, which consolation to championship bracket should be mid to late for Jake Ferguson. I love it. I love Jake Ferguson. I think he's a good tight end. I think that's a great young upside play for that team. Moving a set mid to late second, you're not going to get a startable tight end in the mid to late seconds. Brock Bowers is going to go in the first. Tight end two will probably go early to mid second. You're not getting him with that pick anyway. So I like it. I like Jake Ferguson. I like the offense he's in. I like the situation he has. So I like this. I like this move for Jeremy.
yeah, I like it for both parties. Because Burns is very limited in his picks. He does not have a whole lot of picks. And so he gets what could be, mid to late second. He's got Cole Kmet and Schultz. So I understand not wanting to hold three pretty solid, consistent tight ends. He goes and gets a second. So we'll see what he does with it. So he doesn't have a whole lot of needs on his team. We'll see what he does with the second, and we'll go from there. But I
Komet and,
understand it for both sides. And
Komet and Ferguson would have been my hold. Schultz would have been gone, but Jared Fry didn't need
yeah,
Schultz, so
correct.
they wanted the young upside play. All right, and then the last
Yep.
trade.
I love it.
The last trade, I trade a 26 second, 25 fourth for Jerome Ford from you. So I do appreciate that. That was finishing up as the game finished. We got it through. It is what it is. The trade is fine. I'm getting a backup running back for a 26 second. Jerome Ford's going to help me the rest of the year. But after that, he's going to be a timeshare at best, probably a low end timeshare, like the 40% of a 60-40 at best.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I bought him
Yeah,
for a future second to help me this year.
Yeah, if Chubb does manage to come back, and I'm probably more optimistic than most that he will. He's just an athletic freak. He gets after it in the gym, all the things that you want to see from a guy that's coming back from that injury. And he's come back from a worse injury. Even though that one looked pretty gruesome. And so I looked at it as, I think I paid a 5th round to go get Ford in the offseason, or last year. And so I gained a second out of it, and I'm happy. We'll see what Cleveland does, but they've got Ford Strong, Kareem Hunt, maybe Nick Chubb. So there's just a lot of question marks and really what the future of that backfield looks like. And I've also seen a lot of people saying that, Cleveland might be targeting a running back in this draft. So that next guy to truly take over for Nick Chubb. So we'll see. Helps you. He wasn't really going to help me a whole lot this year. I mean, especially after I made the Jacobs trade. So
Yeah,
I hope it
I
serves you well
wasn't thrilled
to
about
make the
giving up the
playoff.
second. I wasn't thrilled about giving up the second, but I at that point I had to make a move to grab a guy because Kenneth Walker's still hurt, and I needed a
Yep.
guy. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's move off of that. Let's hit a little pow, pow, pow. What are you drinking, Colin? You got anything? Because I'm drinking some whiskey because that's what I do. You're at
Oh,
the
yeah.
hotel.
I got this
Oh boy,
I am at
we're
the
moving
hotel.
all over
Sorry
the
as my
hotel.
computer falls over. I've got this lovely Life WTR.
That's nice.
It's whole body hydration,
We're
perfectly
hydrating.
balanced.
We're hydrating very similarly.
Yes.
A lot of water,
Yes. So,
a lot of liquid.
cheers. What are you sipping on over there?
Some peach whiskey as normal lately. I
As
need to get
per
out. I need to
usual.
get out and meet.
Love it.
I need to get out and get me some nicer beers.
Okay.
Miller Lite and Coors Light aren't paying my
Well,
sponsorships anymore, so I gotta move on and hope for the best.
you're getting cheap, man.
So all right, since we're past our drinks, which were oh so exciting, let's move to what did Almighty Keep Trade Cut have to say about this situation? We
All hail keep trade cut.
we gave you guys who made what trades, so we will kind of just go over values. If you want to hear more, feel free to reach out. But Mattoon put in every pick that you got, gave away. If you had two late 24 thirds, we canceled them out. If you had two fourths that can't were together, we canceled them out. We called them an even value, got rid of them. So we condensed a little bit, but some of you had a lot of pieces moving. So Nolan gained what 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces with one cancel out of a first. Like, I'm not going to
Yep.
read you all those. So we're going to give you the keep trade cut values. And we'll go from there. And we'll kind of tell you. We talked about all the trades and who we thought won. So this is more of an overview of who won the day, right? You might have won one trade but lost enough. And this is what Keep Trade Cut has to say about your team.
Yep. So one thing on here is I think we all sit there and we go and we try and trade for certain picks, 25, 26. We think we know a team's trajectory, and then the fantasy gods, call us fools. And so to even out the 25, the 26 picks, I put all of those in as mid-round picks. I mean, we've seen it where Boyer had the most, I think he was like either the number one max points for 1 year, and he sorry, we're doing thumbs up, I guess. And but he missed the playoffs. I think year one, he was crushing everybody in points, but he was just losing the matchups he needed to win. So with that being said, people are going to sell off. People are going to, they're going to outperform. So every 25, 26 pick is a mid pick. So let's start with Boyer. Boyer gained a total of about 23,000 points in assets, and he gave up 25,000. So when Keep Trade Cut throws in the value adjustments and things like that, I think anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 points is when you're making a lot of moves is actually a pretty net equal. So Boyer, Keep Trade Cut says you technically lost, but I'm gonna say you pretty much broke even amongst your moves. So kudos to you. Paul gained about 18.8 and gave up about 19.4. So 600 point differential. Again, nice moves, Paul. You gained a quarterback, a first, and a second. You gave up some guys, Christian Watson, Goddard, and a bunch of thirds. So I like that move for you and your trajectory. Again, kudos, you broke even. Ty, your big move, as we talked about, was Jerome Ford and for a second and a fourth, and you won that by a whopping 500 points. So nice job, man. You can play with house money at this point.
That's right.
Oh man. Matt did not participate in the trade deadline, so we left him off of here.
Who that
I know
man?
Matt was one of those surprise guys that maybe we'll get into, but I would have expected Matt to potentially sell at the deadline. So disappointed in a lack of movement there. So you go down in the middle division. Lesac, some of his biggest gains were Hollywood, Goddard, and Godwin. He gave up primarily a bunch of seconds and change. Says 18-3 is his gained, 18-4 was his loss. And so again, good job there. 100 points apart. Nice job, Lesac, getting younger, adding pieces, and not giving up anything crazy, in my opinion.
So far, everybody's done well.
Underhill. Yep, so far everybody's done well. Underhill, we talked about. He was moving picks and some players, and he was grabbing older guys. So Keep Trade Cut says that he gained 15,500 and he gave away 18,700. So this is probably the first one where I think we start to see, him heading the wrong direction. About 3,000 points, 3,200 points. I think that's equivalent to about a second, give or take. So it's not horrible, but definitely maybe not the direction that someone that's in a rebuild, should be going.
Yeah, and I'm sure Keep Trade Cuts.
Andy knows.
Go on.
Yeah, Keep Trade Cut definitely favors. You there?
Yep, Keep Trade Cut favors youth, and the OBJ and Connor didn't help that, I'm sure.
No, not at all. So we already talked about it. Andy knows that he overpaid a little bit to go get his guy in Cup. And so, but then he got Dak in the first wash out. So basically you got Cup, Dak in third for a 26 first, Kyron and Mostert. So what that is that's 12,000 to Andy and 15,600 going away from Andy. So probably our first, or outside of Underhill, and our next, I'll say, loser of the trade deadline. But again, nothing egregious, nothing horrible. He made the move he had to make with Burrow going down. Burns, going back to that Ferguson trade, he gives up 34, or he gains 3,400 points, gives up 37. So pretty much right on the spot for that 24 second for Ferguson. Not mad at it. Myself, I gained 24,000 points and gave up 28,000. So, like I said, I know I overpaid for Pittman. I know I overpaid for Jacobs. I got good value at a Cup, and so I was willing to overpay a little bit. So, sorry, Keep Trade Cut. Don't be mad at me. I'm going to Keep Trade Cut hell for losing those trades, I guess. But I feel like I got younger and ultimately didn't lose any picks, so I'm not mad about it.
Yep.
All right. Jer Fry, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You good?
Yeah, you good?
Okay, cool. You were getting like turbo speed over there, so I was worried about you. Jer Fry is our first big winner, in my opinion. Or according to Keep Trade Cut. So kind of to go back, they gave up Pittman and Hollywood, and they gained a first, Ferguson, Douglas, Jalen Warren, and a couple thirds in Demario Douglas. So that was 21,000 points to them, 15,000 points that they traded away. So 6,000 point differential. Nice job, guys, as you continue to, dig your heels into that rebuild and start stockpiling picks. And so good work. The gruesome twosome of Jer Fry. Nolan, as much crap as he's taken in this league, Keep Trade gods love Nolan's deadline moves. Highlighted by gaining a first, Watson, 3 seconds, Keith Mitchell, a bunch of thirds, and gave away Jacobs, McLaurin, and Connor. 28,000 points was his gain. 21,000 is what he gave away. So 7,000 points in Nolan's favor. So good job, bud. We're proud of you. As much as we harp on you. So good work, bud.
That's right. Way to pull through at the deadline, man. Way to
Sorry,
make it.
I know that was a lot of really boring. Yeah, we did. It was fun. Every year it's all the way down to the deadline. Everyone was, I think, waiting for that first shoe to drop, and if I'm correct, I think it was that Dak trade that was the day before the deadline. So
Yep.
thank you, Boyer and Andy, for getting the party started.
All right. So let's run through some playoff scenarios here. Who's going to win? How are we going to get to playoffs? Point differential for wild card, divisional records, head to heads, all these fun things come into play here. And all of them are going to come into play this year, I think. So
Yep.
we are currently sitting with myself and Boyer at 10-3. I'm currently 20 points ahead of Boyer. Andy, 10-3, Burns 9-4, but Burns has the points on Andy. Other than that, Andy has the tiebreakers. Unless Burns wins out, Andy loses out. We'll talk about all that fun stuff. Mattoon 9-4. Kelly at 8-5. And Kelly's currently leading the league in points for by a decent margin. So if wild card comes down to it, Kelly would be in. But let's talk about all of the scenarios where we're going to end up here and see what happens.
Yeah,
So
so
go ahead.
let's start with that last talking point right there. Starting at Kelly. So Kelly is officially eliminated from wild card contention. He cannot make the wild card, but he is still in the running for our division. So Kelly and I play each other this week. The reason of that is Kelly's already got 5 losses. You and Boyer each only have 3. The worst case scenario is that you guys, one of you both lose this week. You're at 4 losses, and then the next person loses, and they're at
that put me
they're
at
at 4.
5
So one of you is gonna be at
losses.
4, one of you is gonna be at 5. Yep, one of you is gonna be at 4, and one of you is gonna be at 5.
Right,
So
but if
if
Kelly
Kelly
won out,
wins this week, well, so if Kelly wins out, he automatically takes the division. He's got every tiebreaker on me. So he wins the division by beating me this week. But if he loses to me, he falls to 6 wins or 6 losses. I'm sorry. And
yep.
you and Boyer can't get there. So Kelly, this is a huge week for him. It's playoffs or bust this week. There's obviously chances that other crazy things could happen. I could beat him this week and then I lose to Jared Fry next week. You know what I mean? There's some outliers in there that for the nuts and bolts of this conversation, we're going to kind of ignore. We're going to talk about probably the key 4 matchups, I would say. So, but Kelly's got the most interesting road because he can only get into the playoffs one way. And that's by beating me this week.
Yep. Going to the top division, me and Boyer tied up. That's going to be a mess moving forward. Matt gets Boyer this week, which should be a good matchup. I get Paul this week, so hopefully I get a win, which means Boyer really needs this win to stay close, but he gets me next week, right?
Yep.
So even if I win and he loses, he gets me. So if he beats me, he can still get in. We would end. Actually, if he beats me next week, he's in because he beat me the first time around.
Yeah. So with your division, your matchup next week, if Boyer wins, no matter what, Boyer wins the division. And the reason is because whether Boyer loses this week or not, if he beats you, you both will have a 4-2 division record, and Boyer has beat you both times, so he owns the head-to-head. So no matter what happens with him and Matt this week, Boyer beats you next week. It's just like Kelly and I. He wins the division regardless of what happens this week.
Yep.
The question comes is what happens if you beat Boyer? What does Boyer's destiny look like? So that's what's going to be interesting to watch. So
yeah, and he's currently behind the 8 ball on wild card points. We'll get to that though. So head us to the middle division there.
Okay, so you've got Andy and Burns. So we talked about Andy's currently sitting at 4 losses, right? And is that right? I'm going by number of
Andy's at
losses.
3 losses.
Andy's at
Burns at
3
4.
and Burns is at 4. So the only way that Burns can overtake Andy in the division standings is to not only beat Andy this week, but Burns has got to beat Lesack and need Andy to lose because Andy is currently sitting 4-0 in the division. And I think Burns is sitting at 2-2. Andy already has the head-to-head. So Burns has got to, basically gain 2 games on Andy in the division. They'll split their head-to-heads, and then it goes to those points for which we already talked about. Burns has got a huge lead in that. So Burns has Lesack and Andy left. Andy has obviously Burns and then Underhill. So it's capable for both Lesack and Undy to pull up the upsets, but let's just say that these 2 teams that we feel are playoff contenders and playoff giants potentially get it done. It's looking like Andy's going to run away with that middle division. So I think in terms of the wild card, there's really 4 teams that I would say are in the wild card conversation. It's Boyer, it's you. So it's the loser of your head-to-head. It's I'm still in there, and then Burns is obviously still in there. So
And Andy could be in it if Burns beats him.
Yep. So yeah. And then Andy would have to lose to Undy as well.
Right.
So,
I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying there's still a shot.
So yeah, so the scenarios, and we'll send this out to the group. Like I said, the winner of your and Boyer's matchup takes your division. Andy, unless he loses to Undy, takes his division or takes the middle division. Mine is going to be determined by Kelly and I. The only way that I maybe get some grace is if I lose to Kelly this week, but then Kelly lose to Nolan. So that's what I would need, even if I lose this week to Kelly, to still win the division. Your division the wild card picture gets a little bit hazy because for me, if I lose, I need you or Boyer to lose 2 games. Because I'm currently leading you guys in the point differential. Realistically, I think the best case scenario for me, sorry, Boyer, I'm gonna throw this out there just because you play Paul, is for Boyer to lose to Matt and then you to beat Boyer if for some reason I still this week. And on top of that, I still need Burns to lose 2. So for me, it's either Burns loses this week and next week and I get it based off record, or Burns loses this week, he wins the following week, and I somehow gain 17 points on him. So if point differential stays as it is, we'll send this to the all the kind of rhythms, but I think this week's gonna be a big one. You got Matt versus Boyer, Andy versus Burns, me versus Kelly, and then next week, all eyes are on Tyler and Boyer.
Tyler and Tyler.
Tyler and Tyler.
Nothing like a good rivalry to end the year, huh?
Yeah. So,
but yeah, so currently Burns leads wild card with points. Mattoon's down 17. I'm down 22. Boyer's down 40. Andy's down 58. But essentially, if Burns wins, he's chasing a different wild card. So down 40-ish to Mattoon, 30 to me. So he's still got ground.
So we've got 16 different scenarios right now. And this does not include Lesack versus Andy, Lesack versus Burns, Undy versus Andy, and Nolan versus Kelly. We could go all day long and get really crazy in this. So looking at those 4 main matchups that we talked about, there's 16 possible scenarios out there. Burns wins the wild card in 10 of those right now. So Burns, you're in a good shot, man. You're in a very good place. So
Yep. Go win our divisions, I guess, huh? That's the goal.
yeah. So
Brandon, I don't know if
and
I want to
then,
play Burns. I don't know if I want to play Burns in the wild card anyway.
Tyler, you've got 12 scenarios where you make the playoffs. So
Yeah,
that's 12 out of 16 is pretty.
we're
So,
we're hoping for the best.
yeah. Yeah. Kelly and I are sitting at 8 apiece. Andy's I'm gonna put Andy's probability to make the playoffs is about 98%. So
Yeah.
so
All right. Well,
Andy
with
might be
that,
the person sweating the least. So enjoy your sleep, Andy.
yeah. And really with that, whoever we talked about, me or Boyer, Andy or Burns, you, Kelly, whoever loses, whatever four are not in, the other two are guaranteed consolation, followed by Matt. Matt's guaranteed a consolation. And at this point, Lee Sack is 2 games up on Undy or Nolan. So odds are he's in, leaving Paul, Undy, Nolan, and Jer Fry all at the bottom fighting for max points 4. And with that, Jer Fry is currently leading max points, or leading the low end of max points 4, which is great. Followed by, I believe, give me a second. I believe Undy is right behind Jer Fry. Jer Fry's at 970. Undy's at 993. And then you've got Paul over 1,000 at 1024. Lee Sack's up into 12s. Nolan's up into 12s. Matt's up into 13s. So Jeremy and Undy are fighting for that. Jer Fry and Undy are fighting for that first pick. Paul's pretty much separated himself enough, I think, with a 50-point lead over Jer Fry. So
yeah, so the real winner of this is yourself. So congrats right now.
I should make playoffs.
So
I should make playoffs,
yeah,
and I should have the 1-on-1.
If you can make playoffs and have the 1-on-1, nice work, man. So
we're trying.
And then the other person, and I'm pulling it up real quick, is Lee Sack. I think Lee Sack was, what he said, him and Nolan are sitting about 4 and 5 right now in terms of max points 4.
Yep.
And he owns him and Nolan's pick. And then he's also got Matt's, who, if Matt loses in that first round of the consolation against 2 of the 6 teams we just discussed, I mean, he could have 3 of the top 6 picks. So
yeah,
he's come along and he's winning games.
Matt would play against either Lee Sack or, oh no, I lied. But if Matt beats Boyer, Matt could be tied up with Kelly if you beat him, though. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, it might be a Matt Kelly situation, in terms of first round. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
Who gets the better matchup?
We got 2 more fun weeks of regular season, followed by 2 weeks of we'll see what the hell happens. So,
pure chaos.
A lot of big injuries this week as we go into big matchups. So
yep. So all right. Well, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of trade talk, a little bit of playoff scenarios. We'll like Mattoon said, we'll shoot that out to the league. You guys can check the playoff scenarios, all that fun stuff. What he put together, and we'll go from there. But otherwise, we're out. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the next couple weeks of football. We'll see you.